I'm Kim Roman, Senior Director of Global Campaigns at Okta. I've spent my entire career in B2B marketing, focused on demand generation, and I've gone through this transition of demand generation to revenue marketing a few times now, and I wanted to share some of my learnings with you. We've all heard before that content is king and data is queen. Well, revenue is the royal family. Revenue is the lifeblood of every company that each of us work for. Without it, there's no resources to do the jobs we all love, including creating content, collecting data, and everything else we need to keep the kingdom running. With 3 out of 4 CMOs this year facing pressure to still hit revenue targets despite fewer resources, budget, and tools, the traditional demand generation tactics of yesteryear are no longer enough to ensure success. So, what can we do to help drive growth and profitability for our organizations? How do we get more predictable with our marketing efforts? If you think about demand generation, what comes to mind? It's likely some or all of the high-level objectives that you see here. There's a heavy focus on activities aimed at generating new logo pipeline, and most often everything stops there. Budget allocation, resource focus, and measurement all seem to stop at opportunity creation, if not even sooner, with some marketing teams stopping at the MQL. Revenue marketing, on the other hand, focuses on the entire customer journey from lead generation to conversion and beyond. Leveraging both sales and marketing, working in unison towards more long-term goals, revenue marketing focused teams not only look at new customer acquisition, but also at retention rates and expansion plays like cross-selling and upselling. Decisions made around budget investment, channel mix, and even messaging and activities are determined by optimizing for customer lifetime value, not just lead creation. As you start to think about bringing a revenue marketing approach to your organization, there are 3 critical steps at a minimum that you should consider. First, you must align your sales and marketing teams. I know, most of you are probably thinking that you already do this. You have weekly meetings with sales, maybe you have shared dashboards, you go to their QBRs every quarter. That's all fantastic and a great start, but in revenue marketing, it's more than just having a good relationship with your sales team. It's about having one shared vision between the 2 teams and aligning on the same expectations and metrics so everyone's on the same page. Part of that alignment work is naturally going to lead you to the second step, which is focusing on the entire customer journey. Again, you may already be doing some of this, like aligning your messaging to customers' pain points. But again, it's more than that. It's thinking beyond a single touch point, past that form submit, even beyond opportunity creation. What else is needed to support their journey towards becoming a customer, and then what happens after you win the sale? Along those same lines, you must also adjust your metrics and measurements to focus and go further. As we talked about, your responsibility in a revenue marketing organization doesn't end when you pass an MQL over to sales. That data you look at to optimize your programs shouldn't stop there either. Analysis needs to look at more long-term goals like customer lifetime value and not just short-term metrics like a cost per lead. According to HubSpot, over half of sales leaders feel that misalignment between sales and marketing costs them revenue, and a third of them feel that it also is wasting marketing budget. And they're not wrong. This is so important for marketing and sales to align on goals, strategies, even tools and processes. So let's jump into more in depth on how exactly can you go about aligning your sales and marketing teams. First, it's a no-brainer, but you have to have the right people in the room. You want leaders from both sales and marketing and other multiple teams represented. As you start out these conversations, it's best to start from scratch. Throw away your team's biases and ask sales to do the same. When you come together, ask as if you're explaining your team's tools, metrics, programs, and definitions to a brand new employee for the very first time. Once you have established common ground, continue your cadences to keep that conversation going. Some recommendations are to meet weekly to review key metrics, hopefully through a shared dashboard on a common platform, meet monthly to discuss larger updates on projects, and quarterly via QBRs to deep dive into results, key learnings, and things that should change going forward. There's a lot to digest there, and of course, you can pick and choose what works best for your company. But I wanted to provide a practical example that you can use that can prove beneficial in early meetings aligning sales and marketing. There are plenty of questions that you can use in an exercise like this, but here are just a few examples that can get you started. The key here is to ask marketing leaders and sales leaders the same questions, compare answers, and then work on a combined answer to the same questions that works for both teams. Let's take a look at an example that I've come across a few times in my career now. As you can see, right away, we're getting different answers from sales and marketing teams, from differences in measuring success to where the system of record is, to even where their efforts are focused. It's clear that as good of a relationship these two teams may have, they're not set up to work together towards a common goal. By combining answers, finding new tools, or simply expanding your view a little bit, you can get to a point where both teams are on the same page. This is how revenue marketing teams think. It's interesting that storytelling and the ability to develop creative that connects with a target audience is listed as one of the most important B2B skills marketing leaders want to develop in their teams this year. This is because the overall customer journey and personalizing that experience from lead all the way to purchase is key for revenue marketing teams. Most, if not all of you, are building messaging around campaigns focused on buyer pain points, which is great. But revenue marketing takes this a step further. It's using input and data from sales to hone in on the top pain points or challenges, helping to take some of that guesswork out of what's actually going to resonate. It's also important that you're personalizing the experience. Even once a prospect becomes a customer, this is still important. Simple things like having your chatbot welcome them as a valued customer or tailoring your monthly newsletter to the product or service that they have can make a huge difference in the experience you're delivering. And make sure to leverage all of that customer data that you have, from creating lookalike audiences to better hone in on companies that are more likely to buy, to understanding features and functionality that you should be leading within your marketing. There's really no better place to understand what's going to work than looking at what your current customers are responding to. Your own data is one of the biggest gold mines available to refining and optimizing your marketing programs. So let's go through an exercise of how you might be able to use that to build out and personalize a complete customer journey. Now, you won't have all the right answers right away. Some of your plans are going to change, determined by the signals that you're seeing, what's working for your prospects and customers. This also might change over time, and that's okay. You'll want to start with what you know and personalize the prospect experience for things like pain points or challenges within that audience. Be in tune with what's happening within the industry overall and incorporate that into your messaging. Once you start creating demand, listen. There are certain channels maybe that are being engaged with more than others. What about content types? What messages seem to be resonating? All of these signals you can use to make optimizations and personalize the journey. The best thing is that once that prospect becomes a customer, you already know them and how they're going to engage. Keep that information, and as you start to launch expansion and renewal campaigns, you're already a step ahead. But it doesn't end here. From your customers, now you can get even more signals that you can use to feed back into the beginning of your program. Leverage win reports, data from your CRM, interviews with sellers, interviews with customers. Take it all in and fine-tune your personalization inputs based on what you're seeing actually turn into revenue. What you'll find over time is that you're going to end up cutting things that aren't working from all areas of your marketing. Your messaging might change, your channel investment could shift, the mix of activities or content offerings might look different from when you started. Keep in mind that this exercise isn't meant to be done once, but rather should be a continuous process that you're consistently evaluating and learning from. This means that you'll need to have the right reporting and measurement tools in place to get the signals you need to make the necessary adjustments as you go. This brings us nicely into our last step, which is talking about measuring beyond the MQL. I absolutely love Forrester's view on MQLs, and they're not alone. How many of you have seen or participated in a heated "the MQL is dead" conversation over the last 6 to 12 months? It's not to say that we shouldn't track or have MQLs, but that metric is no longer the be-all end-all of marketing performance. You and your team will need to focus on new metrics such as sourced pipeline and opportunities, customer lifetime value, and ROI. But let's take a quick step back. All of this sounds great and makes sense, but how can you actually guide your team through a transition like this? Looking beyond the MQL means looking all the way through to pipeline and revenue. And this means marketing sourced pipeline most of the time. So there needs to be an agreement on the attribution model you'll be using. First touch, last touch, look back window. Honestly, there's no perfect model. But once it's established and agreed upon, you need to have dashboards that are going to give you the full picture of the funnel, all the way from lead to customer. Now you can create goals around these new revenue focused metrics and track progress transparently between both sales and marketing. All teams may need some education on this new way of measuring success, so put together a playbook or wiki, whatever you need to ensure that everyone knows how to measure correctly. Once this is all in place, now you can make decisions on channel and program performance, budget allocation, and prioritization based off of the entire funnel and not just lead generation. Especially in times when you have fewer resources, limited budget, increased scrutiny, being able to confidently explain your strategy because it's backed by where you're seeing wins and generating revenue is truly priceless. When you start looking beyond the MQL, you really do need to become more data driven. And that's a great place to be. Let's jump into our final exercise, building a complete end to end scorecard. Revenue marketers are responsible for so much more than just awareness or lead generation. So your team needs to represent that in a way that you analyze performance, look at awareness all the way to revenue. A comprehensive scorecard like this will increase visibility, communication, and transparency across your entire organization and allow leaders from both marketing and sales to identify gaps or hotspots that might have a downstream impact. Additionally, having all of these metrics as part of your scorecard means that everyone is more prepared to have meaningful discussions with other teams. As you transition your team towards pipeline and revenue outcomes, keep in mind that breaking down the silos between marketing and sales, taking into consideration the complete customer journey, and focusing on data driven marketing strategies is all the right places to start. Doing this will help ease the transition and get you and your team on the right path towards increasing revenue and fostering long term relationships with your customers. Thank you all for your time and good luck on your journey towards revenue marketing.